you're a young person and you're struggling to save money, then this video is for you. Hello friends, it's Marianna and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am 23 years old, I live and work full-time in London, and I save and budget my own money. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how I do that. I'll be sharing my personal finance tips of how to save and budget money in your 20s, specifically in your early 20s. I've divided this video into 4 different sections, so here are the chapters for today's video. Feel free to skip ahead wherever you like, and without further ado, let's get started. First thing we're going to start is with understanding your why. The reason why I'm saying this, funny enough, is because whenever you have a restrictive mindset, it's going to lead to overspending. So if you don't know what your why is, why do you want to save and budget, you're most likely going to end up overspending because you have this very restrictive and limited mindset. You just want to be overall smarter with your money. You want to feel like you have control of your finances. Maybe you're saving up to pay off a loan or to buy a property or to travel. Whatever it is that you want to save up for, it can be something small as well. Maybe you just want to build up an emergency fund. This video is aimed at people in their early 20s. Like I said, I'm 23. So right now I am building up my emergency fund. If anything happens, I'll be able to kind of get some money out of that without any guilt because I know I've been saving up for an emergency. So whatever your reason is why you want to save, just make sure that you know exactly why you want to do this and that you have like a specific goal, and it can be more than one. So for example, let's say you want to build up an emergency fund and right now you're not too worried about buying a property or you don't have any loans, and you want to build up an emergency fund and you also want to save up for a really nice trip. You can do this now or after the video. Take out a journal or your notes app or something like that and just write down why I want to budget and save. And so then you can write down, I want to build up an emergency fund. You can maybe set a target for it as well, whatever that is for you. You can set a target for how much you want to save, and then also a trip. So you can say, I want to really go here, maybe a 1-2 week vacation, which would be really nice, but then you have to save up a lot more money, of course. But basically, to summarize, knowing your why is what's going to give you the motivation and the reason to keep on saving to reach your financial goals. If you don't have a why, again, restrictive mindset will lead to overspending, which is not what we want to do. Section number 2 of this video is all going to be about the 50-30-20 rule. Right before I get to explaining how to budget and save in your 20s, I'm going to quickly break down the 50-30-20 rule. Regardless of if you are or not familiar with this rule, you might already be. I'll quickly explain what it is and why I think it's important to talk about that and be aware of that before we move on to how to budget and save. Essentially, the 50-30-20 rule is a simple budgeting technique to help you manage your money and kind of allocate your money into different categories for spending and saving. The way you're meant to do this, technically, is whenever you get paid, 50% of that will go towards your needs, 30% of that will go towards your wants, and then 20% of that money will go towards your savings. Your needs will be things like your rent and your bills and groceries and any like travel to work if you're commuting to work. Your wants will be things like shopping and eating out and travel and subscriptions as well, because technically we don't need those, so that would count under the wants category. And then like I mentioned before, your 20% savings can be towards anything that you want to save up to. Maybe you're paying off something or you will have something you want to buy or experience, so that's what the 20% will go towards. But that's a very like quick little generalization of this rule, and it's something that I wasn't necessarily following when I started budgeting, but without intending to use this rule, I've been kind of allocating about 50-30-20, which makes me really happy because it shows that I was managing my money correctly, which is why I'm so passionate about filming this video and about sharing these tips with you, because I generally love personal finances and I want to be able to help younger people who are maybe struggling to save some money to just kind of be more mindful and aware of their money and their spending so they can feel more comfortable and confident when it comes to making purchases or savings and just knowing why they're doing it. I hope that kind of made sense because I feel like I kind of rambled, and sometimes what goes on up here doesn't really come out the best way through here. But we'll see when I edit this video. Now we're gonna get into the saving and budgeting part. Let's start with saving. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I always say save first, spend later. You obviously have your needs that you have to spend money on, like your rent and your bills. But the way that I do this is, I'm not sure for you when you get paid if you only find out the amount you're getting paid on when it comes in. But for me, my bank account shows my pending amount, which is coming in on my payday the day before. So personally, I always budget the day before I get paid. And I have an entire video of how I budget. So if you're interested, you can watch it. Now I will say it was a few months ago when I was just starting YouTube. So it's a little bit difficult to sit through. I might like end up doing a revamped version of that in the new year because I think it deserves a better quality video. But if you want to see what I have out right now, that's where you can find it. But essentially, I'm very passionate about my budgeting day, so I'll see how much is spending in my account, and that's when I'll start my budgeting for the next month. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I always like to save first when I get paid. So after I do my budget, I know how much I need to spend in my rent, my bills, all of my needs. I know how much I have calculated for that. Then I will take my, if I can, 20% of my pay to put into my savings, and I'll allocate into different little parts, and I'll get to that in a second. And then I know how much I have to kind of budget for my wants. Essentially, I already know how much directly to transfer into my savings or my different like little pots in my little savings account. I know how much I'm transferring. Something that I think happens a lot with younger people, and I see this with my own friends, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think it's the best way to go about your money, is that they will get paid, they'll spend their money without really thinking about it, and then at the end of the month, if they have anything left to save, they'll then put it in their savings. I don't think that's the best way of doing it, because I feel like you're just not really taking control over your finances, because if you're just spending money without considering how much you're gonna have to save, you're probably gonna end up with very little savings, especially if you live in a bigger city like I live in London. It's very easy to overspend here. So I like to save my money first, and then I can spend what I have left and what I've budgeted for. There's a really good quote I quickly read out to you here from my phone by Warren Buffett, which is, "Don't save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving," which basically summarizes everything that I've just said. And it's a really good quote to kind of live by when it comes to your personal finances, to give you the best control over your money. So the way I usually do when it comes to savings is that I have, like I said in the beginning of this video, I have an emergency fund that I'm trying to grow a little bit, just so that if there's anything I have to spend money on, I can, even if it's a larger amount. So I am living in London, like I mentioned, and I have lots of family in Brazil. That's where I'm from. If for any reason something happens and I have to book a flight there, a last minute flight to Brazil can be really close to about £2,000. That's not an easy amount to just throw away, especially if you're not saving. So by having an emergency fund budget, it just means that if worse comes to worse, for example, having to book an immediate flight to Brazil, I can do that without having to go into debt. And that's kind of my personal goal for an emergency fund. And then I also have my Monzo account, which is not my main banking account. I use HSBC mainly, but my Monzo account is what I use for traveling, because you can pay in different countries without any excess fees, just a conversion rate, which I think is fantastic. But also they have like a little pots mode, which I love. And with the Monzo pots, I just find it really easy to manage my money, because I'm a very visual person. So if I say, okay, I know that I have like £100 for like a gifting budget. Let's say I have all of that in like my checking account. If I don't have separate places to put my money in, I'm gonna think I can just spend that money. So having the Monzo pots makes it really easy for me to save for like little things. So if I know I wanted to go to a concert maybe, and that was like gonna be like £100, and I put maybe like 25 towards it every month across 4 months, that to me is a really easy way to see my money and save up for it. And because I mentioned Monzo isn't my main account, it means that I actually forget, in a good way, not that I forget my money, but I forget that that little amount is in my Monzo. So when I save for it, it's actually a lot easier, because I'm not constantly seeing it. That was my JBL turning off. I'm not constantly seeing it, and I'm not being convinced to spend it, because to me, I forget that that money exists until it comes for me to buy it, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I'm saving up for it. That's great. I have the money for it. Just to summarize a little section: save first, spend after you save, and build little saving pots, regardless of what your bank is, if you can. Even if that is keeping it in cash, I don't like that, but if you want to keep like envelopes of cash saving for different things, you can, because technically the saving pots aren't making me any more money anyway. So if it's something that's coming up soon and you find cash easier because you can put it away in a drawer and you're not seeing it, that's another option. Now, quick little disclaimer that I know that every situation is going to be so different, and we're not all making enough money that we can save 20%. And I'll be honest, I cannot save 20% every single month, depending on what I'm doing. London's very expensive, and there are lots of things that I want to do and experience, and sometimes bills just stack up and you can't really control it. So I haven't saved 20% every single month since working full time, but I've tried to most months reach that goal. Every situation is completely different, and it doesn't matter if you're in your early 20s or 30s or 40s. Life is very difficult, and companies unfortunately don't match inflation most of the time. So if you can't save 20%, don't feel bad for it. As long as you are being mindful of your money and you're still budgeting first when you get paid, knowing the needs that you have to pay, and then figuring out if you have any money left. Like if you're consciously wanting to better your financial habits and you're actually looking at what you're spending before you spend it, and essentially budgeting and trying to save, that's what matters most in my opinion, because not all of us are going to be able to save, especially every single month. So as long as you are putting in the effort to do so, that's what's going to make you more successful than other people, even if you're earning the same amount. You know your situation way better than I would, so just take whatever I'm saying and adapt it to you. And this brings me to my last section, which is to budget, spend, and track. And the reason why I'm putting these 3 words is because if you budget at the beginning of your month, but then you just spend without checking what you're doing, there's no point in budgeting. You're still just spending carelessly. So you need to budget spend your money, but then track it as a month goes. Every day I think it's probably just too much, but if you do maybe like a weekly check, then you know, okay, so let's say that you set out, I'm just gonna do a number that's easy to divide by because I hate math, especially mental math. Let's say you set out 200 pounds for groceries, which is a lot. That means that you have 50 a week, because typically you have 4 weeks in a month, right? If after 1 week you realize, okay, I spent 30 pounds for groceries this week, amazing, you're doing really good, you're on track, you actually have a little bit more to spend on more groceries or on something else or put in your savings. But if you spent maybe 60 pounds that week, you know, okay, so this week I'll try and maybe buy like cheaper ingredients or maybe find things that are reduced, and you're just being more mindful so that you stay within your overall budget for the month, because not every week or every day will be the same, and some days or weeks you're going to spend a lot more than others. As long as it balances out in the end of the month, that's what matters. So again, maybe you had 20 pounds extra that week for groceries, but then you ended up getting yourself a little cheeky takeout and that cost you about 20 pounds. It balances out, you're all good. So that's why budgeting, spending, and tracking is really important, and you can't just budget and hope for the best. That's not gonna work. So the way that I do this, and I do mention it in that how I budget video, is by using a Notion template. That works really well for me because I created it myself. There are plenty of Notion templates you can buy online. There are Excel spreadsheets, Google Sheets, and you can make it yourself or you can buy them from different people. Like Etsy has lots of really great ones. I haven't made mine available, but if you're interested in that, let me know and I can make my like Notion template available. But in that how I budget video, I'll link it again, I do go through how my budgeting template on Notion looks like. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out there, and it is broken down in chapters, so you can skip to the Notion part of that video. But those are kind of all of my tips, so that's gonna bring us to the end of today's video. Just to quickly recap, understand your why. Why do you want to save? Make a little list somewhere, whether it's paper or digital, I don't mind. Just know why you want to save. Kind of understand the 50-30-20 rule and try to follow it the best that you can, because I find it's an easy way to kind of manage your money. Save first and then budget, but spend your money and then track how much you're doing it and adjust accordingly. I just want to say a big thank you for watching this video. I hope that this helps you feel a little bit more comfortable and confident going into spending your money and saving it and budgeting and all of that that comes with personal finance. If you found this video useful, please leave a like down below, as that really helps me. And also don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. Just believe it's right there. I always forget the side. Before we finish, thank you so much to 500 subscribers. I have reached that now, and I also did a little post on my community tab. And I just want to say a really big thank you once again, because it means so much to me that you all have subscribed, and I can't wait to see how far we can take this channel together. Thank you so much. I will see you in my next one. Bye!